Cushing's Bookshelf, Episode 5, Uncommon Places by W.H. Pugmire. And this is Nicole Cushing here. I'm the Bram Stoker Award-winning author of Mr. Suicide and have some other books coming out later this year. But today I'm here to talk about someone pretty special to the world of weird fiction, and that is W.H. Pugmire. Some will know him as Willem Hopfrog Pugmire, a writer who has long been involved in the weird fiction scene, particularly the Lovecraftian element of that scene, but really not just the Lovecraftian element of the weird fiction scene. A lot of folks think of him primarily as a Lovecraftian, and that's probably how he would have thought about himself, but he also drew inspiration from writers like Henry James and Shakespeare, Baudelaire. And in my opinion, some of his best work is his vignettes and his prose poetry, which brings us to the bookshelf. Pulling off, we'll find Uncommon Places. An interesting cover, by the way. I'm not really sold on it. The central figure of the woman with the, barbed wire around her and the sword is kind of interesting, but these always struck me as being like little angry teddy bears with wings, and I never quite understood what was that about. But don't let the cover get in the way of a really superb book. I guess what I like about this is, there's a real, and especially in this book, there's a real sense of decadence in the literary sense going on with this. It's kind of this is a neo-decadent text in a way. Some of the work is really focused on artifice and focused on this kind of fever dream quality. And there's probably some queer elements, that you can detect in here. And it's uniquely Willem. And that's really what I want to talk about, too, when I talk about Willem, is there are so many writers today, and I talked about this a little bit on Facebook last night after hearing the news that he had died. And I guess I'm kind of burying the lead here. Willem died yesterday. And so I absorbed that news and I thought about his career, and I posted on Facebook that there are so many writers nowadays who have no real identity, who will be whoever a publisher wants them to be. And really lack a soul. And Willem was a breath of fresh air because he did have a soul. He didn't have to worry about crafting an author brand because he had this unique creative identity that just kind of came out of his pores. It exuded from him naturally. And he was who he was, and that certainly shows up on the page. I wish we had more of that. I really do. One of the things that I think I can say about Willem's work is that it was brave. And in that sense, he kind of carried over this punk rock sort of attitude that he didn't really care about the commercial limitations of writing kind of decadent / Lovecraftian / inspired by Edgar Allan Poe / inspired by Baudelaire, prose poetry. He did it because that's who he was. He told the stories that were in the marrow of his bones needing to get out. And I think if we had more of that, we would have a healthier literary scene. Not just in horror, but throughout all of it. All of the publishing world. So anyway, I don't want to get on a soapbox and kind of take away from the moment, which is all about Willem. But I think his life can be a really powerful example. And so again, this week's book is Uncommon Places, a collection of exquisites. And yes, they are exquisite. Till next week.